As an enthusiast for the ancient world, Boris Johnson will be well acquainted with the British Museum, home to many of antiquity's finest treasures, including this. The statue, thought to have inspired Shelley's famous poem Ozymandias, which reflects on how great men are seen through history.
My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair.
Now, Boris Johnson has just 12 weeks left as Mayor of London. So, the question now really is this. When people look back through history at his 8 years running London, will they judge him as a man of monumental achievements, or just another bloke forgotten in the sands of time? There's no question that in office he's made many Londoners laugh, and others feel a little better about living in what he likes to call the greatest city on earth. The skyline has been transformed, the Olympics hosted, and the city left with cable cars, bikes, buses and cycle lanes. But, according to Sarah Sands, editor of the Boris supporting Evening Standard, a vital part was neglected from this flurry of activity: housing.
He was the one that said this is going to be this great city, this magnet, the population's going to grow, we all know, up to 10 million and so on. And actually he's been very good at planning for it in transport terms. He's been a great champion of Crossrail and getting the transport infrastructure there. The housing, I think in principle, he's been for it, but Boris isn't that interested in process, and I think housing, so much about process.
So when taking in the good and the bad, what might his legacy look like? We asked political cartoonist Martin Rowson for his impression.
I portrayed him in this classical pose as a mixture between kind of Pericles and Achilles, crowning himself with the crown of laurel leaves, astride his plinth, Boris Rex Mundi, Boris King of the World. And behind him, you can see these two people saying, "So who's that on the plinth then?" The other one saying, "Dunno, and we'll never get through these cycle lane roadworks to find out," which I think more or less sums up Boris's legacy.
This week, the Mayor announced 3 new cycle superhighways, but interestingly, the Conservative candidate for Mayor this year, Zach Goldsmith, said that he'd consider ripping them all up.
Certainly the last few weeks in office will be ones in which he can help secure a legacy, but also, of course, put down some interesting challenges for his successor. So by announcing things now, it makes it slightly more difficult than if they hadn't been announced for his successor then to pull back from them if they choose not to do something.
The introduction of the night tube is also uncertain. There has been resistance from trade unions, and while once it was due to start in September, it may now be the legacy of some future mayor. The Garden Bridge, though, may not even have that luxury. Marring controversy over the procurement process, this week the Royal Institute of British Architects said the construction should be put on hold. And according to Kevin Craig, a local Labour councillor in Lambeth, it's 50-50 whether the project will go ahead at all.
There is every chance that the Garden Bridge will not be part of Boris Johnson's legacy. The project is in doubt, the funding is not secured, and with every day that passes as we approach the end of Boris's reign, more voices come out and say the process that the bridge was procured by is flawed and needs to be done again.
So, while there may not be much time left, there is still plenty Boris Johnson can do to determine how his legacy is set in stone.